Hey, welcome aboard. Welcome to the Hurricane Spliffy Show. It's been a week. Not much has changed around here. Weather's been about the same. Not much happening. Hope things have gone well for you folks. I've been healthy. Not much going on in these parts, you know. It's September, so that's about all that's new. Got some updates from last week's stories. Most of it's good news. I'm happy to say that things are looking brighter for the sick kids in this country. The U.S. Customs Enforcement. They're those kids that we were talking about, the sick kids that they were going to deport, whether they were ready to go home or not. And and those ones that were invited over here, the ones that had rare diseases and illnesses that they were going to send home. They were going to pull kids right out of the hospital. Even those that were on life support or between surgeries or whatever, and they were going to send them home to die. There was so much uproar about that they decided that they're not going to do that yet. They're reviewing their cases to see if they can stay. So as of now, those folks are safe. However, if you've made application to stay in this country, then you're going to have to wait. If you made application after August 7th, then you're going to have to wait. Well, it's 4:20, so it's time to spark this sucker up. It's like the fuse on this bomber. So. If you're out there, fire it up with me. Come on along. Come on along for the ride. So there's this outfit. The Irish International Immigrant Center, they don't just defend the Irish. They've been around for like 100 years or so, and they help all immigrants with any type of beef they might have staying in the country. And they've taken up the cause of these kids. What they've done is, with the assistance of the Massachusetts, because a lot of these kids are in Boston Children's Hospital. So with the assistance of the Massachusetts ACLU, they've filed suit against the federal government to see if they can't see to it that this policy of keeping these kids in this country isn't made permanent. So that's the good news on that story. And then there's Ismail Ajawi. We talked about him too. He's that Afghani Harvard student who was scholarship student who was denied access to this country because he had friends. You know, he had like Facebook friends who had posted stuff that Customs didn't like, even though he didn't like them either. I mean, he hadn't liked the comments that they had posted, but Customs didn't like the comments that his friends had posted, so they weren't going to let him go to Harvard. Well, that got reversed too. He's at Harvard now, and everybody's happy. So, and the customs agent got in trouble for that shit. So, I guess she was being too fucking nitpicky. And so that got straightened out. And then we were joking last week about, well, I wasn't joking. I didn't know if I'd be able to travel out of this country. And then we were joking about not getting on a terrorism list. Well, guess what, folks? Wednesday, a federal judge ruled that the national terrorism list is unconstitutional. He told the FBI that they can't use it anymore. So they got to throw the fucking terrorism list out the fucking window. So we don't have to worry about that anymore, folks. When the list is gone. So I don't have to worry about being put on the list by this administration, because there ain't no list no more. So that's the updates on last week's stories. I'm happy to say that they all have positive outcomes. So no negativity there. So that's a good thing. Now, something we talked about a few weeks back was how much time Trump spends and his properties. And I got some stats here, and it's like he's been in office like nearly 970 days, give or take a day or so. And out of that, he spent, again, give or take a day, nearly 300 days out of that 970 at his properties. Now, if the first 60 days that he spent at his properties cost us $500,000, do the math, what 300 days cost us. Now, he spent, out of those 300 days, 227 of them at his golf properties, 99 of those at Mar-a-Lago. And this is the one that gets me. This is the one that pisses me off the most. He spent 22 days at the Trump International Hotel. The fucking Trump International Hotel is in Washington, D.C. He lives there. The fuck's he need to go to a hotel for? I mean, what, is he slumming when he's at the White House? Ain't fucking good enough for him? He's got to stay at his own fucking hotel? I don't get that. Because then you got to put up the Secret Service at the hotel too, right? You got to pay for their rooms. And then he spent 13 days in New York at the Trump Towers. So there's a breakdown on where our fucking money's going. So those are the updates I have on what a fucking waste. Those are the updates I have on our stories, but what a fucking waste. This guy is with our tax dollars. So we got that going for us. So now to get to the main stories, I guess. Although I don't know if there's anybody out there even. Kind of talking to myself here. There's somebody out there. Excuse me, let me know. Because I've read these stories. I know what I'm going to say. If I'm not saying them to anybody, there's really not much point. I'm just joking, folks. Excuse me, but must be the mold or something this time of year. I want to talk about Mike Pence. He went to Ireland and pissed him off. He made a nasty comment to them about Brexit when he was heading out the door. You know, after they treated him like an honored guest, he did something nasty. Okay. Hey, Tanya Campbell, welcome aboard. Good to see ya. Welcome aboard the old THC SPLIFFY here. So Pence gets up on his way out the door there in Ireland, and he says he hopes that that they negotiate in good faith with Prime Minister Johnson. Oh, I've been great, Tanya. How about yourself? Things going good for you? Well, the Irish felt humiliated and betrayed by this. Because, you know, they got this problem with Brexit that they're going to stay. Your baby's sick in the hospital. Oh no. I'm sorry to hear that. What's wrong? Anyway, they felt betrayed by all this. I mean, they're not seceding from the European Union as a part of this Brexit deal. So what happens is they get completely cut off from the European Union. They end up with this Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland thing again. They end up with this border again, just like they had before. There's no unification with Northern Ireland again. They have this, I have a quote here from a local newspaper, an Irish newspaper. And this is what they said. They said it's like pulling out all of the stops for a much anticipated visit to your home and thinking it's been a great success until somebody discovers he shat on the new carpet in the spare room the one you specially bought for him. Okay, that's how the Irish felt about Mike Pence's visit. Okay, I mean, for him to say that, in Dublin, for him to be happy for them about the Brexit deal, was a slap in the face. Uh, uh, this was absurd. This uh, this just goes along with everything Trump uh, has been saying. His total support of Boris Johnson, and uh, it's just ridiculous. This whole Brexit thing, for them to be pulling out of the union, it's just stupid. It's just madness. It creates such chaos in the whole the whole situation is bad. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for employment. It's bad for everything over there. It's bad for trade. Uh, it creates so many problems. Travel, everything. Uh, just makes everything so much more difficult over there. I mean, anybody who's traveled over there would understand that it's just going to fuck things up unbelievably, especially for Ireland, because it creates such a tenuous situation that existed for so long, and it brings all that back again, and it's just not necessary to do that. It opens up old wounds, and that's what's bad. Creates a border that doesn't need to be there. Wow. It's time for Weed of the Week. I'm proud to announce that this Weed of the Week is Pillow Factory, a 22.89% THC content. And from what I can tell, this fucker's an indica. Does a kick in my ass right back into the couch. Good stuff, this. Mild. Smooth. Now, I'm sorry. Let me get back to you, Tanya. What's going on? Your grandbaby is sick in the hospital. They think it's the measles. Wasn't your grandbaby vaccinated? See, I totally believe in vaccinations. I don't subscribe to that school that says they cause autism. I think that insanity was started by that centerfold from Playboy. I can't think of her name right now, but she's a local girl, from the Cal City area. Foraging Seeker, welcome aboard. Good to have you on the Hurricane SPLIFFY show here. So I wanted to do the Weed of the Week story. You know, I always like to do something a little humorous. And of course, the guy in the Oval Office gives me no end of material. And he didn't disappoint this week. We got this hurricane going up the coast of Alabama, apparently. So he warns everybody on Sunday to watch out in Alabama because there's a hurricane coming. National Weather Service immediately contradicts him because, of course, you don't want people in Alabama panicking and saying, hey, look, there's no hurricane coming, because you don't want them buying up all the fucking water in Alabama for no reason at all. So now this was on Sunday, he makes his statement, and everybody's laughing at him all week, and so he won't fucking give it up. Wednesday, he comes out with a map, and he drew on this map with a Sharpie, as you can see up here. He drew on, see where the arrows are. He drew on this map with a Sharpie to indicate the path of the hurricane heading towards Alabama, except it wasn't going that way. And the map is dated August 28th, well before he said it was headed that way. So it was an old forecast map to begin with. So by the time he made the forecast that it was heading towards Alabama, they had already had maps out that showed it was going well up the East Coast. But he had, and then he got people in the White House to agree with him that it was in fact headed for Alabama in the course that he drew with his Sharpie that said, you know, that said it was in fact headed towards Alabama. So this guy lies and everybody swears to it now. But I couldn't believe that halfway through the fucking week, he's still talking about how this thing is going to Alabama. So give it up, you know. I made a mistake, you know. Oops. I don't know. What's this? How many days of Wag the Dog have they already gotten out of this hurricane thing? Drama. The White House. Yeah, I think they were still doing it on Friday even, you know. Yeah, the White House trolls us, exactly. Yeah, that's why I say he lies and they swear to it. I don't know how we can possibly get away with this bullshit. He'll come come out next week and said he never said anything of the kind. You know? So, it's just truly amazing the shit he can pull. You know, but I know I talked about Mike Pence in Ireland, but I have a related Mike Pence in Ireland story, and that's about what the fuck this trip cost us. Not that I have the actual figures, because nobody does yet, but they're going to find out, because although his meeting was in Dublin, he stayed in a place called Doonbeg, because it seems that's where Trump's fucking joint is. The Trump International Golf Links and Hotel. That's the name of the joint. It's an hour's drive and a 40-minute flight. What do you suppose that cost us? You know, petrol over there is sold by the liter, and it costs about the same as a gallon over here. And that's a lot of kilometers through the highlands, or through the countryside over there. So I'm sure that cost us a lot of bucks. Not to mention the flight. And, you know, and when they get there, you know, Pence said he paid for his family, you know, his wife, and I think they took his mother too. And the excuse was that his mother, her family came from Doonbeg, so that's why they wanted to go to Doonbeg. But they stayed at the Trump resort. It's not like they stayed with her family or nothing, you know. So you know, and they're saying, well, it was Trump said, well, if you're going to Ireland, and her family comes to, why don't you just stay at my place? Well, you know, usually if somebody says, why don't you stay at my place, that's an invitation, like, for nothing. You know, you stay at my place, you stay for nothing. But they didn't stay for nothing. He might have paid for the family, but you know he didn't pay for himself, or the Secret Service, or the crew of that fucking airplane. They had to stay somewhere, and you know they didn't sleep on the plane. So that was all taxpayer money. So that's being looked into by the House Oversight Committee. Because, you know, even Obama, when he went to Dublin, he stayed in Dublin. And he was the president. So it seems maybe he didn't have to travel all the way to Doonbeg, you know, on this trip. If you know, if you look at the map of Ireland, you see that Doonbeg's on one coast and Dublin's on the other. He traveled clear across the fucking country, okay, for this trip. Seems to me he could have stayed put. I mean, that's a long way to go. It was 181 miles just to sleep. I bet you there was a whole hotel a lot closer. Yeah, you know, like maybe where Obama stayed, you know, could have maybe stayed there. Now, you know, there's this emoluments clause they keep talking about, where the president isn't supposed to profit from the government any more than his salary. Okay, so this looks like a violation of that. And this Trump International Golf Links and Hotel in Ireland. This this is a failing property. This place isn't doing so fucking good. So this is an injection, a financial injection into the property. You know, this don't hurt. No, no, this is Ireland. This place isn't doing so good. So this is a financial injection from the federal government, you know. Plus it gives it some publicity. Now, Trump's wanting to hold next year's G7 summit at his place in Miami. The what does he call that place? The Trump National Doral. Now this is the biggest moneymaker in the Trump chain. However, its profits last year, wow, were down 68%. And they're saying it's largely based on name recognition. So this injection of foreign cash from the G7 summit would help them out a whole bunch. And that's being investigated by House Judiciary Committee. And then we got something. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Earth Girl. Gal. I'm sorry. Oh, we got a bunch of. Let me see what we got up here. I'm catching up, loading some Tesla from Stony CBD. Oh, really? Tesla. I'll have to see if I can get that. How many days of wagged? Oh yeah, I read that. Okay. It's a mad, mad world. It certainly is. Any good weed stories? Not so far. Runs in and passes out, hugs around the room. Hi, Spliffy. Hi. How you? I got this story here that came out yesterday. And this is gonna knock your fucking socks off. Back in April, I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear you good. Back in April, there was a C-17 cargo flight going from Kuwait to Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska, and it had to make a fuel stop. And normally it would stop in Germany, and it was diverted to Prestwick Airport in Scotland, and outside of Glasgow, 30 miles from Trump's resort there. And it fueled up from the commercial airport there at a considerable cost over what it would have cost had it fueled up at the air base in Germany. Now this is a regular flight that back and forth, a supply flight from Elmendorf to Kuwait. Elmendorf is outside of Anchorage. And so there's regular flights that go from there to Kuwait. And their fuel stops are usually in Germany or at a port in Spain. So they all of a sudden this flight was diverted. In flight, they were diverted to this airport, this Prestwick Airport outside of Dublin. I mean, outside of Glasgow in Scotland. And the crew was ordered to stay at the Trump Resort. There's no military base at that location in Scotland. So they were escorted to the Trump Resort. Now they didn't have any appropriate attire for this resort. They felt out of place. They didn't have sufficient money to pay for the meals there. Their per diem didn't cover the cost of the meals there. They, didn't know what to do really. They, boarded their flight the next morning and flew out of there on their way to, back to Alaska. And this is under investigation by the House Armed Services Committee, and it turns out that this is an ongoing investigation that they've been investigating this since October of 2017. That $11 million worth of fuel and $11 million worth of fuel, has been sold from the Prestwick Airport since then. And they've requested documentation from the Pentagon and wanting to know who's authorized this, and they've been stalled by the Pentagon on this, which is uncharacteristic of the Pentagon to not follow orders. I guess they usually provide stuff rather promptly, and they haven't done this. And they want to know, who's been diverting these flights. This isn't the first. And this airport was purchased, it was a private airport that was purchased by the Scottish government in 2013 for £1. I don't know what that's equivalent to in American currency, but I think it's probably a little over $1. I don't know, $1.50 maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it's been a failing airport ever since. They put it up for sale in June. It's the closest airport to Trump's property. It's 30 miles away. Trump's Scottish property is a failing property. Without the airport, it wouldn't be any more successful. In 2017, the resort lost $4.5 million. But in 2018, it's up $3 million. Maybe because all these military flights are going into Prestwick Airport. And all them military people got to stay somewhere. I don't know. But the House Armed Services Committee is considering issuing subpoenas perhaps as soon as next week. But I mean, how how fucking blatant does it have to get before they do something with this guy? And I'm getting tired of talking about all the fucking corruption. I want to do a happy show. Can we elect somebody happy so I can do a happy show? Seriously, I just want to sit around and do a show that's all about dope or something. You know, I could just talk about one strain after another. Maybe next week I'll just do a show about all the stupid shit he does. Can I do that? Just do a show all about the stupid shit he does. No mean stuff, no graft or corruption. Just all the stupid shit. Because this is all making me nuts. Because I'm sure he'll give me enough ammunition. I didn't really have any other stories written down, but there is one in my head. Oh, I know what. I could tell you a story. Gee, what could I tell you a story about my past? There must be something from my past I could tell you about that's legal. Let's see. I went to see a band called the Vanilla Fudge. It cost me, they were a huge band at the time, extremely popular, had several hits, and they were appearing at a place called the Electric Theater, and there were two warm-up bands that were appearing before. It cost $5 to get in to see this band, and it was a general admission kind of a thing, which back then was quite common. You go to see most anyone, it was general admission. That stopped in Cincinnati in about 1980. There was a general admission for a Who concert, and someone was crushed to death, so they stopped doing that. But anyway, getting back to this, this was in 1968, and I went to this show to see the Iron Butterfly. Not the Iron Butterfly, Vanilla Fudge. And so the two warm-up bands were Led Zeppelin and Jethro Tull. So for $5, I saw Led Zeppelin and Jethro Tull, and Vanilla Fudge were the headliners. It was their Zeppelin and Tull's first American tour. And I remember I went with this guy, Bob Paprocki. And he was a pianist with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And he heard this band called Captain Beefheart, quit the orchestra, sold his piano, and just became a huge rock fan, started following all kinds of bands around. Anyway, we were walking out of the concert, and I remember saying to him, that Zeppelin band would be okay if only that guy'd stop screaming. So there's a story for you. But it cost me $5 to see Led Zeppelin and Jethro Tull. And the Vanilla Fudge. No, that one's cashed. Concerts were cheap back then, though, because concerts were cheap. It was to promote record sales. So the artists would perform to promote the record sales, to buy their album. So it wasn't so much about selling tickets. It was about selling records. What's that? Food. The original Chicago style pizza comes from Pizzeria Uno. Ike Sewell, the owner of Pizzeria Uno, was stationed in Italy during World War II. And he opened up Pizzeria Uno's. And he created the first original Chicago style pizza. So if you come to Chicago, that's the place to go for the original Chicago style pizza. Or you can go to Pizza Due, which is a block away. Same owner, second store. But everything else is a copy, regardless of what anybody tells you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend. Time for me to fix the dinner and get back to work on reads. Maybe tonight I'll actually succeed in the recording. Good night. Hugs. Good night, Earth Gal. Be nice to see you recording. That would be good. Thanks for coming aboard. And thanks for the hug. See you around. So, let's see, what time is it getting to be? I don't know. I don't know what else to say today. Let's see. I went to see The Doors once. That was an interesting show. Cost me $5.50. I went to the Acoustically Perfect Auditorium Theater in Chicago at Roosevelt University. And those weren't even the cheap seats. Those were mezzanine. Main floor were $6.50. $5.50 and $4.50 for balcony. And that was an amazing show. Jim Morrison, the warm-up for The Doors that night were the Staple Singers, and they were a gospel band, which it was Pop Staples and Mavis Staples and her sister. And Pop Staples played guitar, and the girls sang gospel songs, and which is kind of strange when you think about their opening for The Doors. And apparently Jim Morrison thought so too, because when The Doors came out, the band began to play, and he stood at the back of the stage with his back to the audience and his head down and the microphone at his side. And the band played for a while, and he suddenly turned and ran towards the front of the stage, and as he did so, he screamed "fuck" into the microphone as loud as he could. And when he got to the front of the stage, he said, "Now that we drove God out of here, let's rock." And he did. And he put on one hell of a show, you know. And he opened with Sanctuary, of course, because you cannot petition the Lord with prayer. So it was a great opening to the show, he did a hell of a job. So that was a good concert too. That was that same year, of course, because he didn't last much longer than that. So, and then let's see. Oh gosh, what fun! Yeah, those were the good old days. Not a very talkative crowd today. So, what other, let's see if I have any other concert stories from way back when. If I can forage any up from my noggin. I saw Grace Slick and the Jefferson Airplane at a free concert at Grant Park in Chicago. And they put on a memorable performance. After which, oh, she was performing that night too at the Electric Theater. And at the end of their performance, she said, I'd like everyone out there to take the $5 that you would have spent to come and see us this evening and go out and buy yourselves a good hit of acid. So, so sound advice from Grace Slick. So, the world in which we lived back then. So, some 2 years later, at that same venue, was to be another free concert. Well, let me preface it by saying that Sly and the Family Stone was to do 2 concerts in Chicago and had canceled both times. So as a peace offering, he agreed to do a free concert in Grant Park. So I showed up with Mrs. Spliffy, who was then pregnant, and Sly didn't. And mind you, this is the 3rd time that Sly didn't show up for a concert. And promoters were on stage and they started throwing frisbees out into the audience to kind of appease people while they were waiting for Sly to show up. And people started throwing the frisbees around, and then people started throwing rocks and bottles around, and it turned into a full-scale riot, and they were overturning police cars, and me and Mrs. Spliffy took off running towards the train station and got the fuck out of there. Sly never showed up again. So that's about all I got in the way of concert stories for today. So my nose is running. I don't know what's going on. Hope I'm not coming down with something. What a difference a couple of years could make, though. Violence could break out in a heartbeat. Well, I guess things got pretty violent in '68 too, now that I think about it. I was at the convention too. Democratic National Convention. Things got a little spooky then as well. Things got a little scary then too. That was like several days of scary. So there was a lot of rioting going on. There was a shoot to kill order by the mayor, so that wasn't healthy. So, but you know, different times, different mayors. You know, they called it the city that worked back then. I don't know who it worked for, but you know, certainly wasn't the hippies. So, but you know, I was a working hippie, as you can say. I was always employed. So I don't know if I was a traitor to hippiedom or what, but I had a family to support, so I felt that was important. But I was honorable to the cause. So I was liberal. And I still gave my clothes to the free shops and stuff. You know. So I thought that was honorable of me. Donate my stuff. So we're getting close to that magic time. You know what I'm talking about. It's almost. We're almost. I could probably, like the wick on this stick. You think I could do that? You think? You think? Am I close enough? I bet. Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Come on. 420. Smoke them if you got them. Happy 420, everyone. Kind of like this stuff. This is at Pillow Factory. Did I tell you my stoner buddy was here? Yeah, he came by again today. Well, you know what? I think this is where we're going to wrap it up today, folks. So, I think it's time to tell you there's nothing funny about peace, love, and understanding. Bye now.